This is a Sportscaster's Life.
Hello everybody and welcome back to a Sportscaster's Life. It is episode 2 here on the second Wednesday of this newer weekly series show, talk show podcast. Still don't know what it's going to be, but had fun the first episode, got some good views on it, and I'm hoping to have some success here, and I'm hoping to continue to, as I talked about in that first episode, put myself out there more, build my experience in this kind of environment. So that's what I'm trying to get at here with the Sportscaster's Life. And as I went over in the first episode, I'm a 15-year-old broadcaster. My name is Grant Dahlstrom. I do games on the radio and on a TV feed for QCSportsnet.com. We do high school basketball, high school football, minor league hockey, Quad City Storm games here in the Iowa-Illinois region of the Quad Cities. So, thank you for joining us here on the second Wednesday of the series. We post videos every Wednesday at 4 o'clock Central, episodes right here on my YouTube channel. Hopefully, as the show goes along, maybe I'll try to expand the platforms that I'm on. And again, the goal is to get some guests here in the future. But for now, we are starting with the roots, Sportscaster's Life, taking you into the life of a sportscaster, my life as a 15-year-old sportscaster. And we're going to talk about a lot of sports on this as well. I'm a big Cubs fan, big Cowboys fan, Illinois fan, all that good stuff. Blackhawks, so I can talk a lot about that. I can talk about all the sports leagues. But really, I want the roots of this series to be in the broadcasting and sportscasting world. So that leads us to our topic here in episode 2, and that is preparation. It's one of my favorite parts of the gig, and it is, I don't want to say the most important, but it's probably the second most important. You go out there, you execute your call, most important thing. Second important thing, you gotta know what you're talking about, and you gotta put in the work so you put the best call out there, and it starts with prep. So I enjoy it because I like learning about the teams that I'm doing games for. I like using my resources and getting ready for a big game. It makes me feel like I'm getting into that game a couple of days before the game may even be. So I'm going to take you through my process of doing some high school games, doing some minor league hockey games, how I prepare for the environments I'm going to be in, the kind of games I'm going to do, and that's what we're going to go over here today. So I do 3 sports, football, basketball, hockey. That's what I've done, as it's my second year working for QCSportsnet.com. Second year here in this gig. I'm 15 now, just turned 15 last week. So I'm starting young, loving getting experience, and I think it's going to lead to some success for me in the future. So let's start basic. We'll go to my most complex, but what I'm going to start with here is something called a spotting board, and I've got a lot in front of me. And we're going to start with basketball. So it's easy to just sit there with a roster in front of you, maybe a couple notes written on it, but I have done what many other broadcasters do, and sure, it's a high school game. We probably get a couple hundred listeners a game. Sure, it's not the biggest game, but some games are big. You'll get many hundred listeners listening to you, maybe even in the thousands at some point. I know for a football game last year, we had an average around 350 that night. So that's still 350 people that you have to be well prepared for. And for basketball, it's a short game, but a lot happens in a short game. As high school basketball games, usually only around 90 minutes. So you gotta be prepared with enough to fill that time, and that's what it starts with. Sure, it's a small letter size file folder, letter size paper, and for those watching on YouTube, I'll bring it up to the camera in a little bit, but I want to start with my thought process behind it. As I said, I'm not going to go all out for this because it's a 90-minute game. I want to focus on the game, not so much the stats, not so much stuff outside of the game. And even in high school, you don't have the most stats available. And that's another question I've been asked a lot. What do you do when you don't have a ton of stats out there? You find other things to talk about. But when I do have stats, I do like to put them in there for the important players. I like to know the important players for a team. I like to know the team's story. And so that's what I have done here. Now, this is a template that I've found online, but it works great for me as I'm going to scoot up a bit here, if you can see me. But for basketball, there's a look at just one side to start. Top to bottom. Other side, similar setup. But what you'll see over here, you got the, as I talked about, very viewer-friendly when broadcasters talk about their spotting boards, their charts for other sports as well. You want to make it friendly to look at. You want to make it easy to look at, and because it's a visual aid and a reference tool that you can use throughout the broadcast. And here you see what I'm going with. I got colored numbers. Pretty big. You got the bolded last names, first name on top. You can look down, see them, and yes, it's going to help to memorize. Obviously, that's always important, but you're not going to be able to memorize every player for every game. So you forget who this guy is. You don't know who this guy is. Look down. It's number 11. I see the big number 11 in the corner of my eye. I'm able to look down and say, that is Massey. He's the team's leading scorer, 13 points a game. As you going down the columns more here, first off at the top, team name, record, conference record as well. Pretty simple there. But down the columns, you got the grade level, you got the position. You'll have the heights over there when they're given to me. This bigger column here is your stats, stories, nugget column. That'll put some things in there for the important players. And then on the side for basketball, I will do the team story, some of the team stats, not individual in this column, the team stuff. So when their last game was, when their next game was, how many points per game, how many points allowed per game they average, what streaks are they on, what they do in their last game. Then at the bottom, you'll put the head coach. You'll see most of it's printed and typed. I like typing for basketball. For football, which I'll show you in a moment, it's a lot to type, so I won't type it out all the time, which we'll get to later on in the show. But here, it's mostly typed. You'll see some handwritten notes in there. Same with this side. And that's just some stuff that maybe I add as the night goes along, or I add right before the broadcast. Some last-second developments or some last-second things that I think of, and I'll handwrite those in. Sometimes my handwriting stands out from the printed stuff, so some of the most important things will go in the handwritten column, but it just kind of depends on what's all going on. But yeah, here's my setup for basketball, and I'll do this for every single game. I got a game on Tuesday. I'm filming this on a Sunday. Yes, it's coming out on a Wednesday, but I'm filming this on a Sunday, so I'll get to work on these tonight. I usually take about 2 nights to do it. One team one night, one team the other night. It usually takes 1 to 2 hours to type out, so not a big deal or stress thing at all compared to some of the other sports I do where it does take a lot more time. But basketball, 90-minute game, you don't need the huge team media charts, any of that. But I like having more than the roster. I like adding some things to point to. I like being prepared, knowing what the team will come out with. So there's my setup for basketball. Hopefully that's helpful to you if you're an aspiring broadcaster, just somebody kind of interested. That's what I want this show to be. Whether you're an aspiring broadcaster or just a fan and wanting to know a little bit more about how we go about it, there you go. I enjoyed calling this game and had this in front of me all night. I was just fine. Put up a good call that night, so that was good. Now moving on to the next sport. Football or hockey. F comes before H in the alphabet, so I guess we'll go to football. We'll save probably my favorite sport to do last in hockey, but for football, I got just one chart here. I'll make 2 of these a game. I'll either put one on this, the other one's on this side, or I'll just put it on a separate file folder. But this is my football setup. We go to legal size sheets, legal sized file folders, and this is another template that I saw on the internet, downloaded it, but I made it my own. It was built to be typed, but instead I wanted to handwrite things, and I think it looks very visually pleasing to my eye. I think football spotting charts are more satisfying than any other sports out there, as I'll go about how I separate things, but as I did for basketball, my thought process, as I said, handwrite it. I'll put the offense on top, defense on the bottom, and then vice versa for the other teams that flip. Outside of that, I'll also make a storyline sheet for the two teams. So we got 2 storyline sheets a game with some last year's stats, the upcoming schedule, some storylines, things about the head coach, and some school history. So some fun little things about the collective team that I can add in there, some team stuff that I can't fit on the actual chart. But going back to this here, again, I'll make 2 of them. Moline offense, Quincy defense here. The other one would be Quincy offense, Moline defense. But the setup is mainly the same for all of them, no matter which team. But like position-wise, sorry microphone, hopefully the sound is not dying on me right now. But here we go. You'll see, again, big numbers, big last names, visibly pleasing, visually aid. Put what team we're talking about at the top with the record, the conference record. Over here at the side, we got some offensive statistics as a team. What do we got over there? We got what they did last week as an offense, and then we separate it by position. So up here we'll put the wide receivers, and high school football rosters, very expansive. So I can't fit everybody on here, but I know usually what team's game plan is going to be, which players they'll actually go to, which players maybe won't play but are still on the roster. So that helps to know that as well. But I'll put the wide receivers up here. I'll put the running backs at the bottom, quarterbacks in the middle, tight ends on the side. The offensive linemen, I'll usually, for a radio broadcast, I don't find myself talking about offensive linemen all that much. So I'll just have the entire roster, a sheet next to me, that I can point to if I need to talk about an offensive lineman, but I don't feel the need to fit them on my big chart here that I don't really have space for. But as you'll see in the red pen next to some names is their stats, some of their stories, some of their nuggets in there that I will add for the offense. Again, separated by position, lots of quarterback stuff, what he did last week, what he's done on the season, and so on and so forth for many of the other players. Then as we go down to the defense, it's a similar setup, what they did last week. Their stats collectively on the season, and then viewer-friendly, big numbers, big names, different color for the team color, record, conference record at the bottom, separated by position, linebackers, defensive backs all over the board. Similar thing for defensive linemen. That'll just be on another sheet that I can reference if needed. So yes, it does take me a lot of time to handwrite all this out, but for football, it's almost a 4-hour game, even in high school, 3 to 4 hours. I start my pregame show 15, 20, 25 minutes before the game on a normal game day. So the postgame show goes 20 to 30 minutes after the game as well. Occasional interviews with the coach. So it's good to know this stuff for a very lengthy broadcast. And including the storyline sheets, we'll have lots to talk about, and that is good. And the similar thing to basketball, yes, it's high school. There's not a million stats out there, but you find things to talk about in the environment, in the stadium, and trends of the game. If you know the sport you're calling, you can usually pick up on those trends of the game and understand it. So that is football. 2 of them do football games for the Moline Maroons. If you're watching and know them, great. Now you see how I do the games, as I'm their main play-by-play broadcaster, and that's a gig that I love, doing those games on the radio. So basketball and football, I do strictly online. No picture, no video for people listening. Now it's a bit different for hockey, as I'm going to show you what I do for minor league hockey now, as I am a fill-in for the Quad City Storm, SPHL, Southern Professional Hockey League. Really the third or fourth level of professional hockey in America. But what's different is we have a TV feed going. It's called Flow Hockey. I'm sure many sports fans out there have heard of it. They do college games. They do these minor league games all the way up to the AHL, through the ECHL, all that good stuff. Flow Hockey, Flow Sports, very popular app and website. So I love it. It takes an in-arena feed, and the people at Vibrant Arena do a great job calling the shots on that, as it's really synced up to the video board, so it just follows the video board camera and all that, so it works great. But also, yes, I'm doing it on TV. It's also going over the in-arena radio on 100.1 FM, so it's on the smoking decks, in the bathrooms. You can bring, some people we know bring their headphones and listen to the game inside the arena. And otherwise, it's still available on our main website, which is the football and the basketball games, QC Sportsnet. No picture there. So you get yourself in kind of a bind. Do you do a TV broadcast? Do you do a radio broadcast? I've been told in the past that a good chunk of our audience for the hockey games are on Flow Hockey, where they have the TV feed and the game in front of them. But you'd still rather be safe than sorry, so you still like to add those descriptions throughout the arena. But for minor league hockey, I'd say it's a bigger deal than high school games. So I do a lot of prep for these, and I get dressed. I get to the games early. We have an interview with the coach. It's serious, and I really enjoy it, especially as a 15-year-old, to be having this opportunity doing these big games in an arena, in a huge arena, Vibrant Arena at the Mart. It's pretty cool. So let's see my hockey setup here. 20-man rosters, so I got 20 spots here on this spotting board. As you can see, we got it. This is actually from a game I did 2 days ago, but we got the Quad City Storm on this side. You got the teal numbers to separate them. The Birmingham Bulls on this side, the red number backgrounds over there. And one thing that's different from some football and some basketball stuff that I do is I have 3 or 4 or 5 story stats, nuggets on every single player, because almost every player will touch the puck in a hockey game, and every player has a chance to score. So you never know what you could need on any certain player. And many professional broadcasters say they use 10 to 20% of their stuff per game. I'd say I probably use maybe 50% that's on this. But I still find it important because you never really know who could score a goal. Yes, maybe other guys have better chances than the next, but still, it's hard to tell, and so you want to have that information just in case. So you'll see on both sides, I'll highlight an important thing for almost every player. Some players are new, maybe there's nothing too important trends to highlight there, but I like to highlight, I like to bold, so stuff stands out when I just take a quick glance down at it. But again, you see the viewer-friendly numbers and names. Over in this column, the names and the numbers. Through the middle, you have the height, the weight, the stats in the red. So again, a color, visibly friendly. The number will stand out in that red color. And then on the side, in the black near the highlights, is where you get the personal information, the personal storylines, and kind of the trends that they've been on. So like, goals in 3 of their last 4 games, a 5-game point streak where they haven't scored in 10 games, stuff like that. At the top, the pretty basic go-to information, the team name, the record in the last 10, the spot in the standings, the goals per game, goals allowed, special teams, head coach, the main information. I'll add some additional notes on the power play, coach, penalty kill up there, and goals allowed. So that's pretty self-explanatory up the top. Some handwritten notes there for some stuff that I can't fit in typing is It's another one that I type. I type basketball. I'll occasionally type football, but mostly write it down as you saw, and then I'll type hockey as well, as you can see here. But except for the bottom. Now I'll type out the rosters. I'll type out the top, print them out about a day before the game, and then that night before the game, that maybe the afternoon before the game, I'm trying to get really, really fresh on the teams. So I will handwrite in all the team stories and the collective team stats at the bottom. So I got like the records when they score first, their last game, their next game, their storylines. Oh, they've lost 4 of their last 5. Over their last 5, they're averaging 2.5 goals a game. They've lost 4 straight road games. Kind of that similar stuff and the storylines, because really, yes, it's about the individual players, but the entire game is over the teams as a whole. So I've always been told, focus on the teams more, and I think it's good advice. It works out for me, and I've taken that to heart. So I'll put some team numbers, team stats, team storylines at the bottom again, as you can see there. Back out, legal size sheet, legal size file folder, and I usually start hockey about 3 or 4 days before the game. The roster changes up till tip, so sometimes, or till puck drop, excuse me. So I have to adjust on the spot occasionally, but we make it happen. So hockey's a fun one to do. Hockey's a fun one for me to prepare for. And one thing I didn't point out, at the bottom 2 spots for goalies, different colored numbers. So I know the goalies are at the bottom, and usually they have some more space to write some more things, because goalies are important after all. So let's run through this one more time. As again, this is episode 2 of A Sportscaster's Life. There is hockey. We move on here to football. So hockey about 3 to 4 days. I'd say football, handwriting it out, maybe 4 to 5 days. I'll start probably the Monday or Sunday before the game. That way I don't have to cram too much into one night. Yes, I'm not working all night every night doing these, but I'll take 4 or 5 days so I can go at a strong pace and but still refresh every day so I can get it locked into my mind. And lastly, for basketball, about 2 days before a game, I'll do that on the chart. So basketball printed, football handwritten, hockey printed, and it works for me, and I enjoy it, and it's some of my favorite parts about having this job at just 15, and yeah, I do what works for me. And again, football, storyline sheets. Sometimes I'll make a storyline sheet for basketball, sometimes for hockey. Not always, though, because I can usually fit things onto the one chart. But there you go. That is my preparation for the 3 sports that I do on the radio, with the exception of the TV feed on the hockey broadcasts. And I've enjoyed it the last 2 years that I've done it. Hopefully I can keep doing it. And it's been fun. So I go through this process every game I've done over the last about 2 years, about almost 2 years now. Probably, how many months are in a year? 12 months. I've probably done 18 months of it, dating back to football in the 2023 season. Now here in early 2025, but I'd say I've done about 50 games, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less, but I'd say more between hockey, basketball, and football. I've definitely done over 50, so maybe not a good number there. Maybe 60 to 65, we could say. But I'm loving it. So go through this process. Every game I do, one of my favorite parts, obviously the best part, calling the game, being in the game time environment, and getting this experience at just 15, well worth it. And so I've started this new show, new weekly thing, where I'm going to share my sportscasting stories, my tips with you. Right here, same spot next Wednesday, 4 o'clock Central drop, as you can catch us every week. Hopefully we can grow to other platforms. Hopefully I'll have some guests on in the future, but for right now, this is going to be a pretty similar setup. I'm going to sit here. If this interests you, please consider subscribing to me on YouTube at Grant the Broadcaster. I'm on Twitter at Grant Dahlstrom, and this has been fun so far through the first 2 episodes. So thank you for joining us today. That's a look at my preparation. Next week, I'll come up with something to talk about, maybe something to do with the Super Bowl, which we got going on right now. Lots of college basketball, March Madness getting close. There'll be some off-season NFL stuff. MLB ramping up. Yes, all that's important. I'll get to that. I love talking sports, but the main focus of this is to share my sportscasting stories, share what I've learned, share what I still want to learn, and give some tips for aspiring sportscasters and sports fans in general. So lots still to come here over the next few weeks on the channel and on this show, as this has been episode 2 of A Sportscaster's Life. Thank you so much for listening, whether you listen to 2 minutes of it or all 25. I'm hoping this show shows some success and can help some people out. So again, with that, thanks for listening. I'm Grant Dahlstrom on Grant the Broadcaster here from episode 2 of A Sportscaster's Life. Hopefully you'll join us next Wednesday, 4 o'clock Central Time for episode 3. But for now, so long, and thanks for watching.